Hey everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I suppose technically it's a theory video, but I'm going to call it a what if video because we're going to explore the same scenario, but what if it's executed by a different person and how I think the outcome would be different. And the scenario in this video will be Adrien finding out the truth about his dad, but he finds it out from either Lila, Natalie, Marinette or Ladybug, because in my opinion I do think he'd have a different reaction for Marinette and Ladybug. Obviously we know they're the same person, but Adrien doesn't, and he has slightly different relationships with them, even though they are the same person. And why are we doing this? Because I can't decide how he'll find out, so I'm just gonna cover all my bases right now. So let's start with Lila for our first what if. So Lila wearing a wig probably, like why did she throw it in the bin? I dread to think how much that cost, it was a lot of hair. So she tells Adrien that Gavy Baby was Monarch Daddy. Now of course Adrien does not trust Lila, so his first question will likely be, how do you know that? Where on earth is your proof? Like I highly doubt Adrien is going to believe her like right out, and if he does, that's going to be a massive problem. So he won't believe her, ask her for proof, and Lila will tell him what happened in the basement in Recreation. Now, because Thomas Esterick apparently doesn't think it's important for us to see how Lila got the butterfly Miraculous, I'm not actually sure what Lila saw, but it does seem she saw enough and tells Adrien what she knows, since it doesn't actually seem like she has concrete evidence earlier in the show that Gabriel is Hawk Daddy. She just kind of seems to realise from events that happen in basically episodes like Miraculous and Ladybug. However, from there, even though Adrien doesn't outright believe her, the seed of doubt is planted and he goes to confront Ladybug and find out for real. Now, Ladybug could lie, but honestly at this point I do doubt it, and I think she'd admit it, like that she has been lying to him, and they argue about why she did it. Honestly, I don't think it would matter what she would say to him. I think as soon as she admits it, Cat Noir will be absolutely done with her, and I think there are two options here. One is that Cat Noir breaks away from Ladybug to work with Lila, and honestly I think this one is more unlikely. While he will be angry with Ladybug, I'm not sure he'd want revenge exactly, which is what he'd get if he went to Lila. Like, Adrien is still a good person despite him finding this out about his dad. I think he just wants space from Ladybug for the time being. The second and more likely option in my opinion is that Cat Noir goes off on his own. He still fights Akumas and helps people in Paris, but he doesn't work directly with Ladybug, but he might still work with the other members of the Miraculous. Next is Ladybug, and I mean Ladybug, not Marinette. Like I said, I think he'd have different reactions to them. So in this scenario, Ladybug finally admits to Cat Noir what she's been keeping a secret. I think she would either do this out of guilt, like we've seen how much keeping the secret is hurting her, or she accidentally will blurt it out in an argument since she's been keeping this secret from Cat Noir too, and I do think at some point he'd finally want some answers about what happened in Recreation. From here, I think one interesting option is that Cat Noir could use a miraculous Cat Noir to erase his own memory so he doesn't have to know that about his dad, but I'm not actually sure if he can do that to himself yet, but I'd love to see it. However, I'm not actually sure he would, since I get the impression that Adrien does have a slightly jaded view of his dad and feels a bit conflicted since he's dead. And this will end similar to the Lila what if. Cat Noir goes off on his own, he still fights Akumas and still helps people in Paris, but again doesn't work with Ladybug, but still maybe works with some of the other Miraculous. Marinette is next, and honestly in my opinion I think Lila and Ladybug are the two more likely, since I think Adrien finding out of Marinette would be more effective if there's an identity reveal, but we know that's not meant to happen until I'm 60. But let's explore a what if with Marinette in this situation anyway. So a bit similar to Ladybug, she finally admits to Adrien the secret she's been keeping out of guilt, hoping he understands, probably fueled by Luca telling her that Adrien will be okay with it. But spoilers, he is not. I think Adrien would believe Marinette right away, but then also be like, how on earth do you know that anyway? And Marinette panics and says Ladybug told her, which I suppose isn't technically a lie. Adrien and Marinette would argue, and Adrien would eventually ask her why Marinette kept it from him, and she would say it's to protect him. And while that's very nice of her, I think from Adrien's perspective that would make Marinette know better than his father in some respects, as he also kept Adrien in the dark about a lot of things too. This would cause Adrien to break up with her, feeling like he can't trust her, and also because I need the drama, and then Adrien would go to Ladybug to demand more answers, they would argue, and again it would end in a miraculous civil war. Do all of these options end in civil war? Yes. Why? Because drama. And finally, let's take a look at Natalie. Again, I also think she's an unlikely option. In El Toro de Piedra, when Marinette showed Natalie a letter, Natalie was ready to rip that thing up into pieces right there, right then, stomp on it, set it on fire, she was done. Like, it's absolutely clear to me that she does not want Adrien to know this about his dad. So the only scenario I can imagine Adrien would find out off Natalie, in my opinion, is if she's left with absolutely, truly no other choice, like Adrien knows something is going on and Natalie is forced to tell him. Finding out what Natalie has been keeping from him, I do think would honestly utterly break Adrien, more so than finding out Marinette or Ladybug kept this from him. Natalie has been there for Adrien when his mum was dying, after she died, when his father was abusive, after his father died. Adrien, as a child, has placed all of his trust in Natalie to take care of him, so I do honestly think he'd be more than heartbroken finding out what Natalie has been keeping from him. Adrien honestly just seems to want a parental figure to love and care about him again, and he has that with Natalie, and if she betrays that, which she is doing by keeping this secret, his only options here would be to either move out of Paris to England with one set of grandparents, or wherever it was in France where his other grandparents live, or to stay in Paris. However, if he stays, he would still obviously be living with Natalie unless Felix miraculously moves to the city, I don't know. However, if he stays at home, I think he would isolate himself in the mansion, leading himself into a deeper depression because I'm pretty sure he is depressed, and eventually an acclimatization. Yay! And at this point, I definitely do think Adrien would want revenge, and this time he would indeed work with Lila. I think that is likely in this scenario. But there you go, besties. I think those are my top 4 picks for the people Adrien would find out of. I know Marinette and Ladybug are the same person, but to Adrien they are different people, so top 4 people, technically 3, but to him it is 4 people. Of course, besties, I'd love to know what you think of this. Do you think he could find out of someone else? Maybe Tomoe? I don't know, she hasn't really done much this season. She's had, like, what, 2 scenes? The one at the end of Sublimation, and then the one with the council. I don't really think she's done much else so far. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, of course, I'd love to know what you think of this, besties, and I will see you in the next one.